So welcome our How Institute for Society, How Conversation on Moral Leadership listeners. We are so blessed today to have with us for our conversation Dr. Brenda Cassellius, who's an educator, teacher, and leader for over 3 decades. Brenda, it's so great to see you again. I think we're meeting you in Minnesota, is that correct?
That's correct. Good to see you, Dana.
Great. Well, you grew up in a housing project in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as an African-American, also Lebanese, Irish, and German. You went on to get your doctorate in organizational leadership from the University of Memphis, and then started your teaching career in St. Paul as a special education professional in 1991. You took that on to be a leader in the classroom as a teacher, then an administrator, and then superintendent in Minnesota and then Tennessee, before coming to Boston, where I am right now, and serving as the former superintendent of the Boston Public School System, where you oversaw over 54,000 students on 125 schools. Oh, and during the pandemic. You also founded and served as CEO of LeaderProof, where you supported leaders making a world a better place, and are on now to a new executive director position with Fresh Energy in Minnesota. Share with us a little bit about this new venture and how that ties into your life of leadership and education.
Well, I've always tried to live into my purpose and try to do the big intractable problems, right? I've been trying to go after education and having an excellent and equitable public education for children and for our poorest and most vulnerable children. And as I seek now, after 30 years, to leave that, I'm moving into helping to make connections and do policy advocacy and work in the climate sector and renewable energy so that we can leave children a planet in which they can thrive.
Certainly, we need a lot of hope and love and your great moral leadership in the field of energy. I share that. So let's start off with our first question to talk a little bit about your experiences in life and who are some of the people that have helped shape you and who you've become, and maybe how you got into your early beginnings in a career in education.
Just little me, grew up in the Southeast projects of Minneapolis, and I had a lot of people who paid it forward for me. And, I always wanted to do that for others. I was really fortunate to go to a summer camp where I really kind of crafted my character and who I was as a person. And so I decided I wanted to be a teacher. And so I went into becoming a teacher and then became a school principal and a school superintendent, and then the commissioner of education, something I never aspired to, but there were people who saw things in me that I didn't quite see in myself. And I was just fortunate to have the right kind of networks that were woven for me to be able to be successful. And so I got into education for that person to pay it forward and to be able to give back to children each and every day.
And who are some of the people that come to mind and to heart for you that were pivotal in your decisions along the way?
Well, the first one was my Head Start teacher who created all of the curiosity that I have in me. And then I had a wonderful kindergarten teacher. She used to round us up at the end of the day, and we'd be in a little circle, and she had this magic wand, and she'd tap our heads. And if we were good during the day, the light would turn on, and we just thought that was magic. And then in my professional career, I was really lucky to be mentored by some really strong African-American women. So Dolores Henderson was my first principal, and also Dr. Carol Johnson, who was in Boston as a superintendent, was in Memphis. And then most recently, Dr. Josie Johnson, who encouraged me to be the first African-American woman commissioner of education for the state of Minnesota. And so I've just had these wonderful, incredible, equity-minded women and strong women in my life who have made a difference for me.
You are an educator's educator, and I want to thank you for your bringing forth a masterclass for our House Summit. And you did one that was on leadership, moral leadership, and you spoke about the importance of trust and actions leaders need to kind of take, or things they need to do to build and maintain trust in organizations. Share with us some of your experiences that taught you about the importance of trust.
Well, it's both in the research and it's also just in the practice. So you just, as leaders, cannot get anywhere unless you have a strong foundation of trust between you. Relationships are everything. That's the currency of love. That's the currency of work and play and just the way that things get done. And so when I was teaching, I was sharing that there are three things that leaders have to be mindful of. And the first is that you're always going to have to earn trust. It doesn't just come, and it's a constant daily act of taking your practice and really looking and leading into earning the trust of others. And some of that means that you have to first give it away. And you have to trust others and trust the community. And so you both earn trust and you give trust away. And unfortunately, at times, you must also repair trust. And then I shared also that an acronym that I had made up to just kind of think about organizations that really are thriving and thriving because of a foundation in trust. And as leaders, we have to be trustworthy first, honorable, and reliable. We have to be inclusive, we must be vulnerable, and then we must lead with empathy. And so those are the acronym that I use to remember around what it means to be a trustworthy person and to be a purveyor of trust in an organization so that your teams work well and that you are a person basically of your word.
I know you're very familiar with the Howe Institute's Moral Leadership in Business report, and hopefully our listeners are aware of that. It is posted on the Howe Institute for Society's website. But in our research, we found trust to be really linked to retaining employees. And of course, with the Great Resignation, this is an important factor. Of the employees who reported that their manager didn't extend trust, 43% were looking for another job. So it's not just about retaining talent. What are some of the other reasons that organizations need to build a culture of trust from your perspective?
Well, I think, just right within the question is the culture. Cultures that are built on trust are cultures that have really strong relationships and bonds between individuals. Trust means that you're reliable and you're dependable, that you can be counted on, that you're a person of your word. And those things are really, they matter when you're trying to actually achieve goals and that you're working with someone else on a project and that they're going to do their part or they're going to follow through or they're going to come through with the resources for your project so that you can actually accomplish your shared mission. And so I think that that's really important. It also matters for working conditions that you trust each other so that you don't feel betrayed or that you don't feel as though someone doesn't have your back or they don't have your best interest.
So also at the House Summit, you shared a wonderful quote from Stephen Covey that reads, "Leadership is communicating to another person their worth and potential, so clearly they are inspired to see it in themselves." Why do these words resonate with you?
Well, I think because of my own personal background, mostly. I learned that quote kind of mid-career when I was in my 30s. I saw that quote and it just really touched me. And it was at a time when I was taking on the middle schools in Memphis, Tennessee. I think I was about 36 years old. I had gone down there to be a principal for the first time. And Dr. Carol Johnson was interviewing middle school superintendents to supervise all these principals, some of them who were in education longer than I was old. And so, I'm sitting there doing work for her and, kind of getting the middle school plan together. And she comes into my office one day and shares with me that she'd like for me to lead all 31 middle schools. And I said, "Are you crazy? I can't do that. I just came to lead one school." But she saw within me the potential to lead them. And she knew that I had to grow and that this would be a stretch for me. It's something that I've kept with me all along. And of course, I work with children. And so I figure I'm always kind of the whisperer, right? And I'm always whispering to children their worth and potential. Like, wouldn't you like to be a teacher? You should try out for the hockey team. Wouldn't you like to go and do debate? So I'm constantly trying to whisper to them their worth and their potential so they come to see it in themselves.
Every student probably has this focus on what I'm not good enough in. What are some of the strategies, or even teachers, right, or principals, what are some of the strategies in addition to those nudges that you have to help people see their own humanity and their gifts and their strengths?
Well, the wonderful thing is it doesn't just work with children, it works with adults too. So if you're a really good leader, you're always looking for those connections where you see someone's joy and their passion and where that comes together with the work that they're doing. Many times I'm often looking at my employees and those who I work with on my team and looking, is this the right fit? Is this where they're finding their joy?
Dov Seidman, dear friend, we share, our founder of the Howe Institute for Society, he often says there's 3 ways to influence other people's behaviors: coercion, motivation, and inspiration. So working with school districts and schools, what have you learned about the right integration of these 3 levers?
So, I was trained early on in my career on William Glasser's work, and his work is under choice theory. And so with that, you just never use coercion. It doesn't work. It's short-lived. People don't like it. It does violate trust quite a bit, and so in terms of motivating, that's more of an external kind of motivator, I guess is the only word I can think of. It's external to your own interest. And so I think, it's not as powerful as it would be if it's inspiring. And so inspiration is when you're doing something that fits your passion, your mission, your purpose, and you just feel it. So you want to try to tap into someone's heartstrings when you're trying to inspire them. When you're motivating, it's something like, I think more of like performance pay or external rewards or something like that gets you motivated to do something, and that's more short-lived. And then coercion is very short-lived. It's for something that's just kind of urgent or a safety need. Whereas inspiration, I think, is something that just drives hope, and it drives your love and your passion for the work that you're doing.
Is there a story of a time, I'm sure there are many, would you share with us a story of a time where you faced 2 decisions or 2 options that neither of them were really ideal or good? How did you go about making the right choice, right, in terms of following your moral compass and with your moral leadership?
Well, as you know, Dana, we shut down school. We're one of the first in the nation on March 17th. And that was just, I think, 7 months after I started my tenure as superintendent. So I really didn't know very many people. We have mayoral control in Boston Public Schools, and it was a very challenging time, not only for me personally, but for the 10,000 employees that we had, the 50,000 students in our entire city in Boston, as it was for the entire nation. Who could have thought that we would be shutting down all of our schools across the entire nation? I couldn't even imagine that. And one of the things that was really challenging for us was reopening. We were trying to negotiate with our union to get reopened. We did not have a vaccination yet. And of course, Boston schools, about 60% of them were built before 1940. So, every day teachers were seeing, paint coming down. We didn't have clean water in our schools. We were just now going to have nurses in every single school. And so, there was not a lot of trust in the system at that time that we could turn it around and get it open. And at the same time, I had all of our parents who had students with disabilities and very complex needs who were in my Zoom meetings, just having a really hard time, many in tears, saying, my child is regressing. I need to get them back in school. It was a choice of open up school and we risk opening up school and children and teachers getting ill, potentially because there was still so much we didn't know back in 2020, or not open and children regress. And parents really are like at their wits' end with how to serve their children because they're used to having multiple service providers for their children, physical therapy, occupational therapy. They had food and nutrition and all of the things that the children would get when they come to school. And so I was like, we've got to get school open. And so I was facing a really, really difficult decision. And we were able to open in October. We had to shut down again because it went back up again and surged, but we were able to open for a short period of time and then shut down and then open again in January.
Wow.
It was very challenging.
Yes, and the How Institute for Society, we stress the importance of a pause, and I just want to take a big breath, right? You probably as well, as you reflect back on that time. And, in the moment of the pause, we as humans, unlike a machine, when you hit pause button, it turns off, we really kind of have the space to think about our behaviors, our decisions, reconnect with our values, what's most important, who's most important. And I think that a lot of that happened during the pandemic for many, although many people are busy, much like yourself. I'm curious, and I think our listeners would like to hear maybe about a mistake or something that happened in your career, that questions that you asked yourself where you paused to reflect on that mistake, or that I wish I could have, would have, looking back. And what did you learn from that reflection and that experience, either about yourself or about yourself?
So the biggest mistake I made was really just around communicating. And so when I'm tired or not taking care of myself, I think that is when I'm more vulnerable to not being as disciplined about my communication. And so, you don't want to be flip or sarcastic or not listening to others and that kind of thing. And I think, when the pandemic was going on, we were so busy and so exhausted. There were times when we would rush to send out communication and we hadn't taken our time with it, and then it would impact everybody. And so I think, those are the times that I regret the most, is when a communication goes out or, when we haven't been as careful as we could have been around it.
Yeah, and it's really nice to hear that your people really recognized when, you needed to have your own oxygen mask on first so that you could continue to be there for others. And so what strategy or tactics do you use to help others kind of do the pause, to rethink, reflect, reconnect, and reimagine? As you think about your own oxygen mask on first, now how do you kind of help to have them, have others take that pause?
I am fortunate now to be counseling and mentoring many women, about 7 women who are sitting or aspiring superintendents across the nation. And it's basically about their self-care. So I get practice in this every day. And I use an acronym that actually one of them taught me, and it's called SPICES. And so you want to be a little spicy, I say. And so that is to take care of your spiritual care, your physical care, your intellectual, your creativity, your emotional, and your social. And so getting a little spicy every day is how you stay very balanced. And for me personally, I meditate, and I meditate every day. I took that up about 2 months ago, and I absolutely love it. I used to think it was hocus pocus, and, I really couldn't do it. But I said, I'm going to try this because so many people have said it's just so worth it. So I did it, and I actually love it. Now at work, it's really important that you, if you're a leader of an organization, you're fortunate enough to have an assistant or others around you. It's important that you manage your calendar, and so that you block out time during your day for reflective practice, or just to have a minute to take care of some of the more minor tasks and not the heavy decision-making tasks that you make as a leader, so that your mind can be refreshed and you can go for a walk during that time, or you can eat. Sometimes we don't eat as leaders because everything's just day to day. So I think, making sure that you build those pieces into your calendar.
What gives you hope about the future as you look to the many challenges we're facing now as a purveyor of hope? What are some of the ways, techniques that you have to help others keep hope alive, for yourself, I guess, but also for those that you influence?
I think that because I have such a strong sense of purpose and faith, that I lean into that, and that's what gives me a lot of hope, and what strengthens me. And then I like to connect with other people who are positive. I think that's really important, is that you surround yourself around positive people, and people who have a servant mindset, and who want to be change purveyors in the world and inspire hope in the world and doing good. And so I think that is important. And anytime you can do service and doing good with others who are doing service and doing good work, it just gives you so much hope. And it's really pretty profound when you can do that for children, because they reciprocate. Adults can be kind of hard on you every now and then, you know what I mean? And skeptics and all of that. And like, don't want to see you smile too much, but children, they love to play and see you happy and to smile. And so it's just so refreshing to be around children. So I say, if anybody's not feeling hopeful, go to a kindergarten class and read, and you'll leave feeling just so filled up.
I'm wondering if you might talk about that connection for you about, people usually don't think about love and leadership together, certainly if you're purveyors of hope, but talk about the connection for you between hope and love.
Well, leadership is all about love. And so you're just constantly giving love out to your team and to your mission and your purpose and what you're trying to do. I think we need to talk a lot more about love in general. And so democracy is love, providing support to others is love, helping others is love, and just acts of kindness that you can do to and for others is showing love. And so just being able to show love and to give that unconditionally to others it just gives you so much hope, and so I think that they just go hand in hand.
Dr. Brenda Cassellius has been our guest and a friend of the Howe Institute for Society, here for our Howe conversation on moral leadership, educator, teacher, and leader for 3 decades, and an exemplary moral leader. Thank you for sharing your insights, wisdom, and time with us on behalf of our Howe Institute for Society and our listeners. We express our love and hope for you and your next chapter. Thank you for your moral leadership.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you, Dove, for your leadership and for the Howe Institute and the good work that it's doing to connect all of us together so that we can be the purveyors of hope and love.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and all the best for your future endeavors. We know the future is bright with you in charge.
Thank you.